Hey, what's going on? I know a lot of us are suffering from addiction, and a lot of us are in denial. We don't want to accept that we have an addiction. We don't want to accept that we are addicted to something. Maybe because of shame, maybe because of guilt, or maybe because we find ourselves weak, not having strength enough to face what we are addicted to, or to walk away, or to leave whatever we are addicted to. Today, we'll be talking about why do the youth and most people are addicted to drugs, to substance, to chemical, or to things, or to people. We all are addicted to something, somehow. And for that, I'm gonna have 3 guests to help me discuss this topic today. You know the rules already. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends, with your family, on your page. It can help me, it can help you, it can help somebody else. And make sure you leave a comment to let me know how you feel about this video. And yeah, man, let's get to business. So we have Mike with us, and we're gonna let him introduce himself. Mike, tell us about you, where you're from, and what do you do?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Yo, Magic, thank you for having me, man. It's always a pleasure linking up with you. My name is Mike. I'm originally from Haiti, Port-au-Prince. I grew up in Haiti, moved here to the States 10 years ago, to go to college, pursue an education, went that route. I would say, I'm not a big fan of putting like a label, I'm this, I studied this. It doesn't really matter to me. I would say, as far as what I do for work, I've worked in luxury fashion, for nearly a decade now, people management and sales management for nearly a decade in luxury fashion. But in terms of like who I am and what I enjoy doing and what I love doing, I'm a songwriter. I love writing songs. That's one of my number one passion. And most importantly, I would say, I'm just a very curious guy. I love to learn, love to read, and having great conversations with people, things that matter. So yeah, that's why I'm here, man. That's why I'm here to kind of chop it up with you guys. Great work you're doing, man. It's just amazing, man. I can't wait to see where this is going. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. We got brother David. I know he's a pastor, but he's gonna tell you guys more about himself, what he do, and where he from. Actually, Mike, you didn't tell us where you live. Where you
Oh,
at?
I'm Miami. Currently in Miami.
All right, Miami,
you see the sun
in the
here?
building.
You see the sun?
Sunny state. All right, brother David, he's driving right now, so he can't really show his face. But I'm sure in a little bit you guys gonna see what he looks like. So, brother David, introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from.
My name is, thank you for having me on, Brother Kenny. I appreciate you. My name is Pastor David. I'm currently born and raised from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a pastor, and I have a ministry by the grace of God called Diamantic Fire Carrier Ministry, located in Randolph, Massachusetts. And basically, we come together, to have Bible studies, to worship and to pray to God, and to grow and to learn more in the things of the Lord and in his words. And it's a place where there's no religion, no domination, no form of any background. The only background is the love of God and growing in the knowledge of God. And it's a place where if you have a hunger for God and you have a hunger for his words to grow more deeper, then this is the place where you will find that by his grace. It's a place where you will meet God face to face, and is a place where, God's words begin to develop in you, and begin to learn and grow in the things of the Lord. And that's what I do, is preach the word of God. I love preaching the word of God. I love teaching the word of God. And I love to see people being healed and delivered by the word of God. And I thank God for that, and that's only by his grace. Thank you.
Amen. Next, we have Sister Sophia. Sophia, please introduce yourself. Let us know what you do, where you're from, and anything we should know before we get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, DJ Magic Kenny, for having me here.
Thank you for being here.
My name is Sophia. I was born and raised in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I moved to the United States about 18 years ago. Um, I am a wife. I have kids. I am a nurse by profession, by vocation. I am a nurse. So, beside being a nurse, I'm a woman of faith. First of all, I'm a woman of faith. I go by God. I believe in God. I believe that God is my foundation. I am an author. I published 2 books. I just recently released a song. I'm a songwriter.
Oh, great.
I'm a mentor, also a spiritual mentor. If you are looking to build a relationship with God, that's me. I do a lot. As I'm growing my relationship with God, I am discovering more gift and more things about myself that I didn't know existed. So my journey is very interesting. And I definitely want to piggyback on what Mike said earlier. DJ Magic Kenny, you are doing a great job. I want to take the time to tell you that you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Wish you can keep going. We see you. We see you, brother.
It's God's work.
We see you.
God's work. I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm just watching him work.
Yes. Just keep going. Just keep going. You're doing a great work in our community. So that's good.
All right. So all the information for Mike's social media page, Pastor David, his ministry, and Sister Sophia's book and song will be in the description. Before we get to the topic, make sure to subscribe. And if you have any comment, please feel free to comment and share this video. So the topic, why do you guys think the youth and most people are getting addicted to drugs, to things? But before we get started, what do you guys, when you hear addiction, what do you guys see? What do you guys hear? What's the definition of addiction for you? Mike.
Oh, you want me to start? I was gonna say, I like having people who have a different perspective. You have a pastor on there. I'm not religious, but I am a believer in my own way. And I think it's a great thing to have like different perspective on there. Look, man, my first few years in college, I was a psychology student. So I'm gonna go more in the route of it's a disease.
Okay.
We used to believe that addiction, I mean, I'm no expert, but I mean, if you look into it, we used to believe that addiction was people who were morally weak, people who don't have any morals, people who are weaker, morally. That's what we used to believe until, recently it started. We can look into the, if you guys believe in science, or at least the science that we have now, it's a disease. People struggle with it. It's a, you can't really put any stigma on people who struggle with addiction because now we know that it is a disease and people have genetic predisposition that make them more susceptible to being addicted to substances or to being addicted to different things. So when I hear addiction, when I hear someone is addicted, the first thing that comes to mind is they're struggling with a disease that you can pinpoint physically. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other aspects to it, but I think to have a conversation where where we look at it with grace, if you want to say, we look at it with understanding. I think we have to start with the understanding that it is a disease that people struggle with.
Okay. Sister Sophia, when you hear addiction of any kind, what do you see? What does that mean to you?
When I hear about addiction, I definitely see somebody's fighting. It's a fight with something. It's a lack of control. We don't want to be judgmental, but it's a lack of control. It's a fight. Definitely, that's what I see. I see a fight, and also a lack of control. It's something that you cannot control. You cannot control yourself. So rather you fighting through it, or rather you just surrender, or you just say, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna let myself be led by this particular thing that I'm struggling with or I'm addicted with, but it's definitely something that you don't have. That's what I see, that you don't have a control over.
Okay. Pastor David, when you hear addiction, what's the definition that comes to your mind?
In my humble opinion, I believe addiction has a negative stigma on that word that is attached to that word. You could be addicted to anything. It could be negative, it could be positive. Like, for an example, I could be addicted to love. I could be addicted to hate. I could be addicted to pride. I could be addicted to I could be addicted to humility and kindness. I believe that addiction has a negative stigma upon it, is because when people think about addiction, they automatically think about drugs and alcohol and sex and so forth. But you could be addicted to anything apart from that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I like that.
You know, like when it comes to addiction, it's all about what pleases you and what entices you. You could be addicted to something that satisfies the flesh, or you could be addicted to something that benefits the Spirit of God that is in each one of us. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say that whatever you feed yourself to, that's what will birth the addiction. Addiction comes when you don't have control over your emotions. So meaning that you cannot live without having that cheesecake. You cannot live without having that satisfaction of self-pride or self-glorification. You know what I mean? So whatever your spirit gravitates to, it will become an addiction. Whatever your flesh gravitates to, it will become an addiction. Addiction is birth when you don't have control over it. And I repeat that. Addiction is birth when you don't have control over it. Whatever you lack self-control in whatever area it may be, it becomes addiction. To the point where it's now controlling you rather than controlling it. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody. That's my take on it.
Absolutely.
That's my take on it.
No, I love the fact that you brought up that people can be addicted. It's not necessarily substance. I think when we started the conversation, we were mostly navigating toward obviously drug abuse and things like that. So my perspective from it being a disease comes from that. But great point for bringing up the fact that you can be addicted to love, you can be addicted to kindness, you can be addicted to things that are not necessarily physical, something you cannot hold on to. It can be a psychological addiction, and that it's a great point to bring forth. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to ask, if you don't mind, Magic, I wanted to. Sophia is a nurse, and I know she's a woman of faith, but I wanted to ask her perspective on the fact that since she's a nurse, so she's in the medical field. What are your thoughts, Sophia, on the physiological and the fact that now doctors or even the medical board, wherever you are, especially in the United States, they would agree that it's in terms of substance abuse. They would agree that it's an addiction. What's your take on that? I mean, it's a disease. They would agree it's a disease.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I will say I agree to a certain degree with that. It's a disease because what do you call a disease? A disease, it's something that just if you have high blood pressure, let's say you have high blood pressure, there is something that causes you, having high blood pressure. It could be,
high blood pressure is a symptoms of something that's going on physically. That's not right.
That's not right.
What you're saying, yeah.
So, it could be your genes. It It could come
Yeah.
from genes. It could come from different things. Or it could come from poor appetite as well. So let's say high blood pressure. We have high blood pressure as a disease. That's the reason I said I will agree to some degree to that. That addiction could be a disease because there are people they just find themselves addicted.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything. Like they just found themselves addicted. Like, if you're taking kids from, like, let's say 5 years old or 6 years old, 7 years old, for some reason anybody introduce them to something, whatever it is, and they get addicted to it, or even nobody give it to them, you know what I mean, and they just starting to be addicted to whatever. Some kids, I remember there was a maybe a couple of years back, kids were being addicted to Benadryl, or not even Benadryl, NyQuil. That was a big thing.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yeah, NyQuil. So this is the reason I said to some degree I will say that's a disease, but I don't even think it's like I don't think it's like 80% of a disease. Maybe I'll say 30%, of disease. The rest of it, I will say it's your environment. The rest of it, I would say, the rest of it, because I'm a woman of faith, I would say is spiritual. The rest of so if we're talking about addiction, we can say it's a little bit of a disease, it's a little bit of your gene, it's a little bit of spiritual, it's a little bit of your environment, it's a little bit of everything, so that's my take on it.
Absolutely.
That's important.
As for me, I think it's pretty much a combination of everything that you guys said. It's anything. When I hear addiction, I see it's something that you don't have power over, or you are not controlled, if I could say. I just Googled the definition right now, and
I was going to tell you to do that.
Medical News Today, it says that addiction is a psychological and physical inability to stop consuming a chemical, drug, activity, or substance, even though it is causing psychological and physical harm. It's something that's destroying you.
It's hurting you, but you just can't seem to stop. So, the psychological aspect is important because Pastor David brought that point when he said, hey, it's not necessarily substances. You can be addicted to a lot of...
That's exactly what they're saying here. It's chemical, drug, activity, or substance. So now, what do you guys think mostly the youth and mostly the youngest generation is the ones that are more addicted? Because I often hear they say like it's the young, the celebrities, but I've seen a lot of old people addicted as well. So, but we know the rate for the young is way higher. But what do you guys think that is? Pastor David.
I believe everyone has an outlet that they're trying to find to numb a situation or to numb a pain or feeling. Some turn to drugs, some turns to alcohol, some turns to partying. You find people who try to relieve stress by shopping a lot, or going to the movie theaters, or taking a walk on the beach or something, or just talking on the phone or talking to themselves. I remember growing up, and they used to always say, if you talk by yourself, that means that you're crazy. That's not true, because talking to yourself is a self-remedy. Talking to yourself is just, allowing your thoughts to be spoken out, and you're hearing yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's all about management when it comes to that particular segment. A lot of young people right now, they are addicted. And the reason why you find a lot of young people who are addicted into different things like alcohol or drugs, if, in that sort of topic, one of the reasons why is because there's not a lot of people who could relate to them There's a big gap. Generally speaking, there's a big gap between the adults and the youth.
That's true.
And that's because of the culture. When you don't understand the culture, you will misunderstand the people. And you have to understand the culture in order for you to have a better relationship with the people. So if there's a miscommunication or a misunderstanding when it comes to the culture, you can never reach the young generation. Yeah. So the young generation is not going to come to you and be like, hey, can you help me out with this? How do you relate to this? How do you do this? How do you do that? How can you help me cope with this situation? Yeah. And if the younger generation cannot look to the elders for help, they're going to turn to other things. You see them turn to pornography. You're going to see, you're going to see them turn to, drugs and different things. For an example, if a parent cannot have a sexual education and teach a child about sex and different things, your child's going to turn to pornography to get the education. Your child's going to turn to different things to get the education. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah, of course.
And what parents or what the elders or the young or the older people fail to do, society will give them. People will give them.
Oh.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear.
We're here. We can hear.
Yes. So that's my take on it. Addiction starts from a small seed, then it comes up big. That's why they're trying to say that, well, I think you need therapy, or you need to go to this class, you need to go to that class. None of those will really help because the situation comes from the root. Until we discover the root, then we're just hitting the surfaces. We're not really dissecting the real issue. Why is it that person is doing this? Why is it that person? Because when you go to these therapy classes and all these things, don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's not really hitting the root. You're trying to teach people how to live with the situation, but you're not helping them to get delivered from that situation. Because I believe everything starts spiritual before it manifests physical. Everything that we could touch, smell, and feel originate from the spiritual realm.
Let me ask you a question on that topic that you're saying right now. Would you say that the therapist, for example, to me, I always thought I know there's certain therapists, that's what they do. What you're saying right now, which is they have the patient talk, you have a conversation with them,
right?
You have a session. That's how they call it. You have a session, they have you speak, and some of them, I haven't been to a lot of therapists, so the ones that I've known so far, they will put you in a situation to explain certain problem, your life, and they trying to do what you're saying right now, which is go back to see what is causing you to do the things that you're doing.
Yeah, that's like
I said, I'm not talking about for all therapists.
Yeah, that's cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that therapy, out of everything that you're saying, everything else definitely is not going to help. But certain therapists would be able to not help you or not free you from the problem, because some people still lie when they go to the therapist. So it's really you that can free yourself. But I would want to add that therapy actually can help. It depends on which therapist that you go to.
Well, right. No doubt.
If I may say, excuse me, if I cut
you go for it.
No, that's fine.
Therapy does help, but until the situation is dealt with, the root of it,
exactly,
then it won't help you to the degree that you should be helped. That's like saying that, I'm going to go talk to the pastor and see what the pastor could help me with that situation. Unless the Lord reveals to the pastor what needs to be done, then it's just like another session.
Exactly.
People are searching for answers, but they look at it, but they're finding answers in the wrong place. It's like, I'm searching for the truth, but I find the truth in the wrong places. You know what I mean? And, God will bring you certain people like therapy or counseling and different things to deal with those things. But speaking for myself, by using myself as an example, there are issues that I go through in life. By me discovering those, I have to be honest with myself. Until
Absolutely.
I'm honest with myself and discover that, hey, this is something I need to deal with, everything else is just a cover up. Forgive me if I'm overlapping, if anyone has anything to say.
No.
No, it's so good. I just wanted to say that because, I didn't want anybody to misinterpret what you were saying about the therapist.
Okay.
Because a lot, especially right now from 2020, the people going to therapy, man, the numbers is like sky high. I didn't want to kill anybody's hope right now.
No, therapy is good. If you're led to go to therapy, go to therapy. If you're led to do something else, go to that something else.
Correct.
Wherever the Lord is leading you to do it. Because that could be your answer. That will find your deliverance. That will be your place where, finally I got somebody that I could talk to, that I could relate to. You know what I mean? It could be anywhere.
Yeah.
It could be anywhere.
Yeah,
absolutely. Anybody.
Absolutely.
Well, this is
so Mike, you could go ahead too.
Look, man, this is a very it's a great conversation, but it's also such a complex issue, right? Like when you talk about addiction, you're talking about, people's plight, man. Someone is struggling with something. And, and people struggle with things for different reasons, right? Trauma, childhood issues, environment where they grew up. For the most part, we have to agree a lot of it nowadays is substance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also realized that Pastor David mentioned something earlier about the culture. The culture is usually a representation of what people are going through and what people start to believe, Mm-hmm. Hey, look, the music, the art, the fashion. What are people exposed to? What are most young people exposed to nowadays when it comes to what we call the culture, right? What is it? It's pop culture. It's music. It's hip hop, right? And that's where the missing link with the parents come again, because you need parents. You need strong parents. You need parents who've been there, who've done that, who actually know how to approach this situation. We're dealing with things we don't know how to deal with a lot of the things we're dealing with nowadays. We didn't know we were going to be so connected. A kid can pick up a phone and go on YouTube and see so many different things and listen to rappers, and maybe, the things we value, the things we give value to now have changed than when our parents were growing up. It's not the same thing. It's what they're exposed to. So I think kids nowadays are exposed to a lot of, misleading information on how they should be, how they should behave, what they should do at a certain age. And I think that has a big impact. And if the parents are not playing a role, if the parents don't have a foundation, whether it's spiritual, whatever it is, whatever the foundation, whatever the values of the parents are, that's what they're going to impress in their child. And if you don't have that, if you don't have a family, and the family structure is very important too.
That's a big point. Yeah,
the family, the family structure, having a mother and a father in a household that are on the same page, that have the same values, which is something we lack a lot in our culture, right? So it is a complex subject, man. It's interesting. It's also complex.
No, it is. And I want people to know that anything that we just talking, we're just trying to find answers. This is not anything that we're imposing. We're not giving solutions or anything. If you guys find solution in anything that we're saying, then I'm sure we're just happy that we can help you. But anything else, we're just discussing. We're just trying to have a debate, honest opinion about an issue that the community is facing, pretty much. So, Sister Sophia, you're a mother, you married out of all of us, and why do you think, I can say that you kind of fall into both generation. So why do you think that the young generation now is getting more addicted to substance, to chemical, to things or anything?
I think it's the generation, like Mike was saying earlier. There is something about this new generation, the fast life, the peer pressure, the going to the club and popping ecstasy. I remember I used to go to party. And
you used to pop ecstasy?
Hey, no.
That's not what you said.
No.
Not from pre-approved.
You need to.
Yeah.
I remember I used to, growing up in Haiti, I used to go to parties, Perfection. I don't know if anybody remember, and all these things. I used to go to the party, but I never drank alcohol. Because that was not the thing. It was just to have fun. It was just to meet up with your friends. It was just to meet up boys, because in Haiti mostly we go to all girls school, all boys school. So definitely when there's those kind of program, you want to meet with others. It was never about you seeing people getting drunk in the party and things like that. I think with this new generation, and like Mike was saying, the new generation is exposed to so many things. It's like they don't have a chance. They don't stand a chance like not to do these things, because it's just right there. You know what I mean? Let's just take an example. It's just an example, and I'm not being judgmental. Growing up, weed was a big thing. Like, you couldn't, where would you go to find weed? You couldn't go anywhere. Now it's almost everywhere. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing for those street drugs. It's everywhere. So those kids are exposed, and the peer pressure, because somebody's doing it and they gotta look cool. They gotta look, they wanna be that person in high school. They don't want to be that person in the neighborhood who's cool. So they're gonna do these things. So that's what I feel like, this generation doesn't stand a chance, because they are exposed to so much. And in the fast life, if you go into this club, and if you don't drink a certain drink, it's like almost like, you're not part of the club. You got to drink that. You got to take that drink, or you got to do that. You got to pop that ecstasy. You got to do this. So it's the peer pressure. They are exposed to so many things. So that's my take on, like Mike was saying, it's a broad subject, but that's one of my take on it.
That's true. You guys have mentioned like a lot of different points. And to resume on everything that you guys were saying, I think it has a lot, like for me, from my perspective, and with everything that you guys are saying. I've been in the club just like you, Sophia. I didn't pop no ecstasy, but I've been in the club at a very, very, very early age. Mike know me probably for the longest in here. I've been in the club at a very early age, and it all started with beer. In Haiti, there was no age restriction for drinking, so I started DJing probably was 15, 16. Yeah. So I used to do private parties at that age, and I would go and drink beer, but I always have a high tolerance of it. But growing up, for the people with on my age, on the same age that I was, it was a whole different story. I would see them drinking and getting drunk, or going smoking things that they shouldn't even be smoking. One thing that I started was cigarette. As for me, at a certain age, at a party, you would think that having a cigarette at one point was cool. It was the coolest thing to do.
It was
for some reason. I don't know why did I fall for it, but it was the coolest thing to do, to be at a party to hold a cigarette.
That's how it starts, man. Yeah. That's how it starts. It starts with, like, you young, you wanna look cool, you wanna do what's popping.
Yes. So that's why I can definitely.
And remember, at that time you're talking about, we didn't have social media. A lot of things we didn't. So we were exposed to less things. Now we're exposed to even more things. And also keep in mind, some people are more genetically predisposed to become addicted to substances.
Yes.
There's some genetic predisposition,
because some of us are stronger.
Some of us may, you may try all type of things, and you it's easier for you to leave it off. And some people try it and they can never leave it. Look, DMX, talking about this. DMX
rest in peace. I don't like to say rest in peace, but I know that's what most people would like to.
Part of his story was very early on. Someone gave him a joint that was laced with crack.
Definitely.
I don't know if you guys heard that. So you see, and it's something he's been battling for a very long time. So yeah, some people are more predisposed to getting hooked, man. Unfortunately.
I was reading something I believe yesterday, and it says he started smoking since he was 14 years old. 14 years old.
That's the age you actually usually start. like I just said, that's how it started for me around 15, 14. Started drinking, started to get exposed to women and all of that stuff. That's the age. But yeah, and I think one of the things that play a big part of that is the big point for me is what Pastor David said, not being able to find anybody to relate. I feel like the youth, the generation, this generation, the celebrities, the artists, anybody who's growing right now in this generation, they find out it's very hard to find somebody that you can relate to or connect to, because I feel like everybody's lost. Everybody have a identity problem. I just say like I feel like everybody have an identity problem. So if you got anything to add to that, go ahead.
Yeah, I would definitely love to hear Pastor David perspective on the identity issue that we're talking about here. That's
because I feel like the youth we definitely struggling with that.
Okay, the youth to me is not about the age. I believe a lot of people equate the term youth to the age bracket, and the youth is not an age bracket. The youth has to do with the state of somebody's maturity.
Okay.
You could be 40 years old and still think like an 18-year-old. I've seen it all the time. You know what I mean? So it deals with the maturity of someone's state in their minds. I believe that when it comes to the identity crisis, there are people who are still searching for themselves, and they try to find themselves by dressing a certain way or talking a certain way or adapting to a certain culture and rejecting that culture. And they feel like, well, if I do this, I will discover what I like to do. And the thing about it is the fact that there's a lot of people that feel like, this makes me feel good, so maybe this is something that is a part of me, or this is a part of me, and that's not true. Because emotions is like a roller coaster. It goes up and down. So we cannot find our identity based on what feeds our emotion on a temporal state.
Yeah.
To find yourself.
Wait. Hold on. Say that again.
You can say, I should say that again.
We cannot find our identity based on an emotional appetite for that specific moment. So whatever your emotion gravitates to, you cannot say, oh my goodness, I like this so much. Maybe this is something that I like. Maybe this is something about me. This is a part of me. No, it's not, because that's the emotion that is speaking. The emotion has a voice. So we cannot cater to the voice of the emotions and feel like, okay, just based on how I feel just for a moment, maybe this is who I am. No. In order for you to find who you are, number one, you need to be isolated from the world. You need to be isolated from everything that could give life to your emotions. So, or your mindset for that matter. I believe the greatest person that could help you discover who you are is God, because God is in you. And you need to learn who he is in order for you to find in order, to discover who you are. Yeah. You got people who's in the age of 50s and 20s and 30s and 40s. They're searching for themselves. Even celebrities and people that have millions and billions of dollars, every night they struggle with 5 questions. Dr. Miles Monroe always said it before.
Great teacher.
Who am I? Where am I going? What am I born to do?
I'm here for.
And why am I here? So these are the questions that is tormenting people's mindset every night they go to sleep. So in order and they turn to different things
to find the answers.
To not face those questions. Because it's a hell, it's a torment for them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So they turn to other things just to cover up those 2 questions. So finding who you are is a fundamental thing. Once you establish the foundation of knowing who you are, everything else will not matter. People's opinion will not matter. What people say will not matter. How people feel about you won't matter, because you know who you are. You know who you are. And when you discover who you are, there's a sense of peace that you step into. And that peace is what protects you. I don't have to turn to pornography. I don't have to turn to drugs. I don't have to turn to alcohol. I don't have to turn to religion. I don't have to turn to families and friends and school. And because why? Because I am in a place of peace. And that peace is what fulfills my life.
Pastor David, I have a question. That's very, very. We really appreciate you taking the time to,
Thank you. I thank God.
Of course, absolutely. Look, let me ask you a question. As a pastor, look, I grew up as a Catholic in Haiti. I didn't have traditionally, I didn't have any. I would say I didn't have any guidance in terms of going to church. We did it because that's how we did it. We went to Catholic school. But it wasn't. So as a man of faith, as a man of God, as a man who believes that that's how someone should find their identity. How does someone, from your perspective, as a man of faith, how does someone go about finding who they are spiritually through God?
Well,
great question.
Thank you for asking that question, Brother Mike. I appreciate you. It's not about the religion. It's about a relationship with God. And God will use different avenues to help you discover who you are. You know what I mean? There's a lot of situations that anybody could find themselves in. And it's that situation that God uses to bring about the truth about yourself. You know what I mean? What society would consider as a bad experience or a bad motive or a bad moment, God looks at it and be like, no, I'm going to use that to build you. I'm going to use that for you to discover who you are. And that's how that journey begins. Your life doesn't begin when you are physically born. Life begins when you discover God. Life begins when you encounter God. Moses didn't know who he was until he met God. In the book of Exodus chapter 5, Moses says, who am I? Verse 4, who am I? And the reason why, you look at a man, an adult, a 40-year-old man that still struggles with the identity crisis. He was born rich. He lived in a wealthy lifestyle. But yet again, when it came to discovering his life, he asked God, who am I? And God had to answer, and God answered him. So so I don't know if that answers your question, Brother Mike. There's different avenues that God will use for you to discover who you are. And it could be anything that God will use. It could be any experience in life. Everyone has a different traffic. Everyone has a different path. Everyone has a different lane in life. And God will use that very thing to bring light to you and and help you to discover yourself. And that's a journey. I speak for myself. I'm still learning who I am. Do I know everything about me? No. You know what I mean? But like each day, God is revealing something new about me. Sister Sophia said something powerful earlier. She says that, the more she gets closer to God, the more she realized more things about her that she didn't even know about. And that's the beautiful thing about God. That's the beautiful thing about God, is the fact that the more we grow in the Lord, the more God reveals to us things that we don't even know about. Like for you, Brother Kenny, or for you, Brother Mike, or anyone else who's going to be listening in the future. God will show things about you that society doesn't know about, that you yourself don't know about. And I'm not talking about you have to be in church to know about this, or you have to read your Bible to know about this. No. How do you think God spoke to Moses? How do you think God spoke to Apostle Paul? The Bible wasn't written. He spoke to them within their spirits, within their hearts. They have an encounter with God. Yeah. So, that's my answer to that question. And I pray that it helps.
No, absolutely. Thank you, man.
You got anything you want to add on that, Sister Sophia?
Yes, definitely. I want to piggyback on that. There's a verse in the Bible that said, even before God put you in your mother's womb, he knew who you were. Yeah. You see what I'm saying to you? So even if we don't want to talk about faith, we don't want to talk about Bible, let's just put it that way. Your mom didn't even know you not until, you were 9 months old, and God knew you before that. You see what I'm saying to you?
Yeah,
so your identity will always be in God. And if you don't cultivate that relationship with him, you will never discover who you are. And I just want to add this, being addicted to something is an unhealthy way to deal with your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you have that.
Say that again.
Being addicted to something is an unhealthy way to deal with your emotion. Because guess what? Remember, we learned that even in Haiti, I knew that too much of anything is not good. Too much of anything is not good. So there should be always a balance. There should be always a balance. And like Pastor David said, rather it's sex, rather it's pornography, rather it's drug. Some people might not be addicted to drug, but some people are addicted to food.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
That's a
you know
big
what
one.
I mean? That's a big one. And of course, we're
Or
gonna
cutting.
Yes, of course we're
Cutting
gonna look
themselves.
Yes, cutting themselves. Yes, you or TV. Some people are addicted to TV. They watch TV 10, 12, 15 hours a day. Yes, and it's
That's
not
true. I
that's
don't mean to laugh
because
about it. It's just a true
it's
situation.
a true, right? Yes.
Something simple,
or
but it's a true
shopaholic.
situation.
Yes, something simple, and they could turn it into an addiction. That's because there is a void inside of you. Some people are addicted to work. I was one of them, addicted. I used to work like crazy.
Now let me ask something.
So-
And this question is for all of you guys. Now, what would you say to somebody that says, I don't think I'm addicted. I'm okay with this. I'm happy with this, the way I'm living. I think I know who I am. My bills are paid. I'm making money. I'm looking good. I'm on top of the world. Like, this is who I am. I'm the boss. I'm the ish. Period.
Well,
like they're saying. And I'm saying that just to say somebody who's just not really looking at it in a spiritual way, or not even knowing that they are addicted to something. And what would you say to that? Any of you guys feel free to answer.
I don't know if anyone wants to go.
I was gonna say, well, I'm gonna be really quick. Denial is actually a part of it. You meet a lot of people who are addicted.
Definitely.
You meet a lot of people who are addicted, and there's denial is definitely a big part of it. I mean, it doesn't start becoming a problem until it starts affecting your life in a way
negative way,
to your well-being, to your health, to people around you. Once it starts affecting you, maybe your work, what you do, your health, people around you, your finances, then it's an addiction, and you need help. But again, you see people who are addicted all the time and who are denying it. Maybe it's because it hasn't hit yet. It hasn't hurt them yet. Maybe it start hurting people around them. Some people don't start until they don't start looking for help until they hit rock bottom. Some people don't even have a chance to start looking for help. So but I would definitely say that's typical. If it's someone around you, your friend or family member, there will be denial, and I know that for a fact. We do deny that a lot, especially when we want to hold on to that thing, to that external thing that gives us meaning and value. We want to grab onto it, we want to hold on to it. So that's definitely that's actually a great sign of it.
Sure.
Yeah. If I may add, back to what Sister Sophia was saying about that, and what happens is you have to be careful when you become weak, in that vulnerable, weak state, because if you cannot control your weak area, something negative will fill that void. If that makes sense to anybody, So even though somebody could be denial and feel like everything is going fine, I have control over myself, and I feel good about myself. I don't think this is gonna be a harm to me. Me personally, I would say, okay, I will come in agreement with that person. Because I may not know, even in that breaking moment, or even in that moment of denying, God could use that to wake them up. Because I have learned personally, love the love of God will give you the ability to even understand somebody, even at the weakest moment. Or because by you understanding them, you could have a better approach. By you understanding them, that could be a remedy. By you understanding them, that could be a place where they could escape. Because a denial moment is a breaking moment. And sometimes people hide their true feelings behind words to tell people, hey, I'm fine, but really you're not fine. You know what I mean?
I'm fine. It's like the biggest lie we tell.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Or, you know, I'm doing okay. So
Right.
we have to read. We have to have the ability to read what people don't say. It's not what people say that matters. It's what people don't say that matters.
That's true.
So with the love of God that is in all of us, it will give us the ability to hear what people don't say. Can you read beyond the smile? Can you read beyond, oh, it's okay, I'm fine? Can you really pick up that thing, you know? And we need to have a connection with that person to be like, you know, that person, I know that person's not doing good, but I still love that person. And I'm still going to be there for that person.
That's true.
That's my take on it.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Let me say something about people being in denial. This is the reason I think personally why people are in denial. Let's say, you know, whatever you are addicted with, right? Because we just agree on addiction being a void. You know, the person has a void and they're trying to fill up this void. And let's say your addiction is having a nice body. You know, you go to the gym, you work out and things like that. You will never be satisfied no matter how much you go to the gym, because you know why? Because the void is bigger. The addiction is bigger. You see what I'm saying to you? Because remember, we said the addiction is equal to the void. There's a void in that person. So no matter how much you go to the gym, you still will find yourself not satisfied with your body. You see what I'm saying to you? You see those people that kept going through surgery, because the void is even bigger than the result they are getting. Somebody who is addicted to food, no matter how much food they eat, they still feel empty and they still have the urge to keep going back and eat because the void is even bigger. So that's why I think people say that I don't think I eat a lot. No, I don't eat a lot. I just eat a couple of scoop of ice cream. No, I don't think I smoke. No, I don't smoke a lot. I only smoke a pack of cigarette a day. You know what I mean? That's because to them it's nothing, because the void kind of like swallow everything. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think that's the number one thing with when people said, "Oh no, I don't think I eat a lot." No, I know I don't work out too much. No. You know what I mean? So that's my opinion on that.
That's true. Like Pastor David said, love will always do it. Sometimes it could be hard. Because even if you have the ability to see beyond I'm okay or I'm fine, you could still try to show them that you're there to support and everything. But if it's somebody that's close to you, I feel like it's always going to be hard to watch them dealing with that. Let's say, for example, if you have a wife and a husband and the wife is addicted to some kind of drug or is addicted to food, or the husband is addicted to pornography and stuff like that. You know, how do you, I mean, that wouldn't be a question, but I'm just saying that a situation like that, I think that would be extremely harder to resist that with the love that we're saying. I don't know if you guys agree, or if you can give your opinion or a message to anybody you feel that may be going to that right now.
I think it relates to the shame, because sometimes they feel so guilty, the self-guilt, the condemnation.
Ooh, the one addicted or the
me.
one loving?
No, the person who's addicted.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, the one who's denial, the one who's always trying to cover up themselves. I believe is a part of that, generally speaking, is you find people who says, I don't want to face my ugliness. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be criticized. I don't want to be condemned. I really am feeling guilty already. So by me just telling the world, this is what I'm going through, I don't want more dirt on me. So you have people who's like really denying themselves, and it's not their fault. And we cannot judge those people. You know what I mean? Of course. Because, I go back to what the Bible says. As a man of God, I always relate to the truth of the word of God. And it says that in Romans chapter 8, verse 1, therefore there's no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus and who walks after the spirit and not after the flesh. There's no condemnation. God is not a God who's going to hit you with a hammer on your head whenever you fall down. He's a God that meets you where you are at your lowest place and brings you to where you need to be with him. There's not a place where people call it the rock bottom or this and that. And that's not, with God, there is no such thing. God will meet you wherever you're crying out to him.
Sure.
You could be smoking, you could be drinking, you could be doing so many things and say, God, I don't want to do this, but this is what's giving me help. And God could use that and deliver you out of that.
That's true.
Because God responds to the heart. Whatever addiction someone has, God, your addiction cannot stop God from delivering you, whatever it may be. Okay, let me clarify that. A bad addiction cannot stop God from delivering you, because you could have good addiction as well. But a bad addiction cannot stop God from delivering you. So even at your lowest of plate, I think about DMX. I'm looking at Whitney Houston. I'm looking at Whitney Houston's daughter. I'm looking at Michael Jackson. I'm looking at so many people that have passed away. And and drugs and alcohol, generally speaking, and people passed away with different things. And I'm saying to myself, man, and I'm saying to myself, what is life? I'm not gonna look at, for an example, like DMX, they say that he passed away with drugs. Who knows? I wasn't there, so I can't really say. But I'm not going to look at what he passed away from. I'm going to look at the years that God has used him to be a blessing to his generation.
Amen.
Look at the years of his impaction. What was the message that he brought up? Whether through music, whether through an interview, whether through one-on-one, what was the message that he brought out? What was his, how did he use his gift to bring about the love of God to his people?
Man, I'll tell you that.
That's what I'm going to focus on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to focus on what happened to him. I'm going to focus on the good. I was told by a woman of God. She always says to me. She says, try to look the good in everything.
Yeah. Try
to see the good in everything, and you will see the beauty of God.
And that's funny that you said that, because I posted a video today that DMX was saying that was his message when he went to Power 105. He was saying that he always trying to look the good in every situation, and that's why I kept him going. And one time when he was at his lowest point, the only thing he asked was, God, if you really love me, then show me that you love me. So all of that in his music and everything that you're saying, his message, to me, that's how I see it. When I was younger, probably I used to see death, when somebody passed away, I used to be sad and everything. But I'm only sad now if that person didn't get to live. But anybody that got to live, that get to find themselves, I can't be sad because that's why we're here. To me, I feel like that's why we're here, to find ourselves, to create ourselves, to make an impact. Anyway, it doesn't have to be like on a big stage. You know, your impact could be right next to your children. Right,
it starts with the family, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And DMX music.
Yeah, he's been firmed. He's been firmed for a long time in terms of his faith, and even though he was struggling. And the thing is, what people don't realize, DMX is just, because he's famous, we know millions of people struggle with the same situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The thing with DMX is also, as a human being, he was free to show people, look, I'm struggling. And he was in the public eye.
That's what it's about.
And he also wasn't hiding it, but he was firm on his faith, and he was firm on God, and and the message.
And that's what matters.
Yeah, and that's that. Yeah, 100%.
That's what matters.
I would say the same.
Sorry if I'm cutting anybody off. There's a man of God that I listen to, and I know, who's from Africa, Nigeria. And he said something that was very powerful that resonates to me to this day. He said, it's not how you die or what age you die. The question is where you're going after this. That's what matters. Is where you're going after this.
That's a whole podcast. That's a whole different podcast. I need to write that down.
Yes.
But that's big. That's one of the questions that torment people too, like you were saying. That's one of the questions I feel like that keeps people up at night.
Yeah, because you say to yourself, like, it's not how long you live. What is the purpose that you're gonna, how you live your life, how you gonna use your life to be a blessing to people, whether you open up your business, whether you take people from, you pick them up and you drop them off somewhere, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a coach, how are you using your gift to be a blessing to people? It brings me back to Nipsey Hussle, and it really hits home because I'm looking at a young man that have used his platform to literally change the whole diaphragm of his arena. He's people who came out of prison, he's giving them jobs, legit jobs with paycheck, with social security number attached to their paycheck. He's building apartment complex to give to people who doesn't have a home to live. He's using his music to wake up a lot of people in terms of life and society and different things, and to see his life come to the an end, and that is really heartbreaking for me personally, because I'm saying to myself, look at a lot. In his 33 years, he impacted a generation.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the situation with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and countless lives, innocent blood that was spilled on this ground called America. And I'm saying to myself, God, did they fulfill their purpose? Did they really live their life? And I'm saying to myself, was their death a wake-up call? Like, when George Floyd died, it shook the whole world. Not one nation on this earth does not know his name. China, Japan, Europe, Africa. And, it shook the whole world, because I'm saying to myself, look, not only him, I'm not saying that he's more important than people who have passed away in the past, but to see that what we may consider to be as nothing, it's big in God's eyes, and God could use that to be like, boom.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as to wrap everything up, what do you guys, each and every single one of you guys, if there was somebody who was dealing with addiction right now, they may be fighting it, just like DMX was fighting, but they keep finding themselves going back to it. Or somebody who is in denial right now, who can't really accept that they have an addiction. What would be the message that you want to tell them? I'll go with Sister Sophia first. She's been quiet for a little while.
I've been listening. This is great. I feel full definitely from the conversation that we are having today. But for anyone who, fighting addiction, I will say, first of all, get to know yourself. Take your time with life. There is something that is very popular nowadays, and it's called self-care. Love on yourself. Love on yourself. Get to know who you are. Spend time with yourself. Get to know who you are. Get to know what pleases you, what gets you upset, and what can you do to get yourself out of a situation. You know what I mean? Let's say you're upset. What gets you out of being upset? What makes you feel better when you are upset? You know what I mean? So that will be my first thing to say. Get to know yourself. Self-care. Take your time with life. Life is not easy. Life is not easy at all. If you're running through life, you're gonna miss a lot of steps. So you need to take your time, enjoy your life. Then I would say have faith in God. We were not meant to live this life by ourselves, because it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of headache. People are always looking to stab you in the back and things like that. So go back to God. So that will be my thing, my advice to someone who is fighting addiction right now, who, on the verge of addiction or whatever. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Sister Sophia. Mike, you want to go next?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Look, yeah, I mean, when people are in darkness, and well, the first thing I would say is, personally, the first thing I can think of is seek help, and that help will be different for everyone. For someone, it could be seek spiritual help, right? Seek God, have a spiritual foundation. I think that works with a lot of people. And whether it's a pastor, whether it's a church, whether it's someone that can start guiding you in terms of having a spiritual ground, and that's a great way to start. And the second thing I would say when it comes to seeking help is, reach out, because sometimes people are dealing with it, but they're afraid to reach out to a friend or to a family member. They don't know who to reach out to. Reach out to friends, reach out to, anyone in your community, anyone, that may provide help, that may, provide resources to help you through the tough times that you're going through. And personally, I can tell you, relationships as human beings, and I found that through my darkest hours, having friends, having people who love you, people that are willing to take their time to, uplift you and be there for you, to listen to you. It's tremendous. It can help with anything. At least it can start putting you on the right path. So when it comes to seeking help as well, I would say reach out to friends, reach out to family members. Find people in your communities that are going to be willing to help you. That's the first step. The first step is seek help, however that is for you. If you don't have anyone to reach out to, seek resources, in your communities, because I'm sure there are a lot of resources. Maybe you might add things to your description as far as, different resources that exist for people who are struggling with mental health right now and addiction or anything they need help with. So to me, it's really seeking help. It could be spiritual help. It could be family, friends, loved ones. That would be the first step.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Pastor David.
I agree with what everyone is saying, with Brother Mike and Sister Sophia. And I would like to add this to it as well. Don't focus on the addiction. Don't talk about the addiction. Don't even think about the addiction. Let's focus on your building yourself. Let's focus on God. And before you know it, God would take that very thing away from you without you even realizing it. Because the more you talk about the addiction, the more you talk about it, the more you give it life. If you want something to die, don't feed it.
I agree.
If you want something to die, don't feed it. Starve it to death. Starve it until it dissipates to the fullest core, until it dissipates. And once it dissipates, you won't even have the appetite no more to go back to it because it's gone. You don't even know when it's gone. Do you know why? Because you're focusing on God. You're focusing on his love. You're focusing on building yourself. And Sister Sophia said it, self-care. The more you care for yourself, the more you won't focus on the negativity. What makes you happy? Even if you don't know what makes you happy, believe me, there's still happiness there. Everyone has something that brings them a sense of joy and peace that comes within the core of an individual. You may not know it now, but it doesn't mean that you will not know it tomorrow. Take a walk, go to the beach, go to the movies, do something special with yourself, go to the restaurant by yourself, eat, buy an expensive food for yourself because you deserve it. You know what I mean? Go shopping.
Some people are going to like that. Expensive food for yourself.
Because
I love that. That's one thing for me for sure.
How would you expect somebody else to treat you?
Absolutely.
If you don't have self-value for yourself, how would you know how would you know your worth? So when you take care of yourself and you grow in the love of God and you talk to God, God will remove that thing without you even knowing. You could wake up one day and be like, whoa, wait a minute. That thing is gone. By the time you discover it's gone, it's long gone. You don't even know when it happened. Do you know why? Because God took care of it. Do you know how God did? Do you know how God took care of it? By you taking your mind off of it and you focusing on Jesus. Amen.
Sure. Amen. Thank you, Pastor David. As for me, anybody dealing with addiction, anybody who's in denial right now, the first thing, learn the laws and the principles of life, which the only person and the only place you can find these things is from the book of God, is from God, because he's the one who created life. I can give you tips, other podcasts can give you tips, other books can give you tips, but guess what? They all got it from the source, which is God, the creator. So learn the laws and the principles of life, which is going to be able to teach you how to love yourself, how to live, how to go about things, and it's going to give you certain understanding that you didn't have before. And the second thing I want to share is, that's a quote that I read somewhere. I'll find out who said it. I'll put it in the bottom of the screen. But the quote says, it's not the addiction, it's not the problem that kills you. It's what you do about the problem. So that's what I would want to say. So thank you guys, man. Thank you for joining. We're going to have this conversation more often. Yontipale Podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe, and we'll have this conversation another time. Everybody stay safe, stay blessed.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for having us, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a nice one, guys. Thank you.
All right. Have a blessed night.